Hey everybody, this is Paul Colligan, and this is my social media productivity webinar. I get asked more than anything else how I manage this crazy world of social media. It's something I've been wanting to share for a while now, and I am absolutely thrilled to do that today. What we're going to do, instead of a traditional slide deck type of situation, is we're going to run with a mind map. I think this is going to be a fun way for all of us to interact and get an idea of what's going on. Don't worry, I will give everybody a copy of this mind map so you can take with it as you please and do with it as you please. I think it'll be a good way to see how all this stuff flows together. What's important with social media is the simple fact that it is the sum of all the parts. It's how all of this stuff flows together. So I think the mind map medium, if you will, is just a really good way to do this. So today we will cover. We've got fundamentals, we've got tools, we've got processes, we've got Q&A. The fundamentals, basically how I start this, how I think about this, what I do with this. The core truths, if you will, that I'm dealing with when I am dealing with social media. It starts there, and it's the basis for everything else that I do. We'll then take a look at the tools. And these are the tools that I use. And one thing I want to say about tools is it really doesn't matter what kind of tool you use. What matters is that you actually get the job done. So whereas I might hope that some of you take a look at the tools that I use and are encouraged by them and use them yourselves, what really matters, what is really important, what we really focus on, is that we get the tools done. I'll then show you the processes that I go through for social media, and I think it'll help you understand how I can be productive in this space but still look like, have the presence that I do and make the impact that I do. I'll show you the processes I go through. We will then go to Q&A. Now, the two biggest questions that always come whenever you do a presentation, question number one is, will you record this? Yes, I'm recording this. I'm recording this right now. If for any reason, something goes wrong in terms of the recording, I will re-record this for you. So don't worry, this is being recorded and you will get a copy of it. The best kind of questions to ask during a webinar are questions in totality, are complete questions. Often what happens is you get a, what did you mean by that? Or could you go deeper into that? Or something like that, which isn't necessarily a bad question. But unfortunately, if I look 10, 15, 20 minutes later into the webinar, I don't know what you're referencing. So the best questions are asked in totality. Go ahead and put them in the Q&A interface. Go ahead and make any comments you want in the Q&A interface. Just realize that, I won't always see them all the time as we're focused on getting you the content. Now, it's important to understand today, and I hinted on this a little bit earlier, that again, this is talk about, actually I should say talk about the technique, not the tools. You need to be productive. That's why you're here. You want to be productive inside of social media. I want to help you build a path for yourself to be productive inside of social media. The tools are just that, tools. If you're building a house, I don't care what kind of hammer you bring to the house, to the building of the house. I just care that you've got, good, plans for building the house, and you've got good materials for building the house. What type of hammer you bring to the party, I really don't care. And that's the same way we feel about tools. And then finally, as you might have guessed, I'm going to do all this live. I'm giving you my mind map live, and we've already seen the first typo in it. I'm going to go out to the social media sites live, and so anything could happen, and I warn you, this could get wacky. But I've been asked to do a webinar like this before, and I think this is going to be intimate and real, which is exactly what everybody's looking for. So that's what we're going to cover today. Now, let's take a look at the fundamentals. Fundamental number one. Social media is extremely addicting. Oops, let's get rid of that. Social media is addicting, period. If you have played with social media, you understand how exciting it can be, how invigorating it can be to post a message and have somebody like it, or have somebody comment on it, or have somebody share it. And there's this instant communication feedback link that comes with social media that is, gosh darn it, addicting. And if you have an addictive personality, if you're the type of person who wants, instant gratification, you can be in for a ride, and you want to be careful about that. But the thing is, at the core, you want to realize that this desire to see what people think about every tweet, every post, every video is understandable, and it's natural. What you got to do is you got to rise above it. You got to limit yourself. You've got to focus and know what it is that you want out of it so that you can purposely and intentionally focus on getting just that. So you start with the idea that social media is addicting. If you're watching this, you've probably felt that call. You probably understand that. Could be part of why you're here. So part of what we do is we eliminate distractions. The first thing we do in social media productivity is we go to as few sites as is humanly possible. Why do we go to as few sites as is humanly possible? Well, just the time it takes to go to as many sites as is possible. Paul, what do you mean by this? How can I not go to Twitter? How can I not go to Facebook? Don't worry, I'm going to show you how to do that and what the approach is to take. But basically, you go to as few sites as possible. Realize that for most of the social networks, the money's in the advertising. The more sites you go to, the more advertisements you are going to see. The more advertisements you are going to see, the more likely you are to click on them. The more sites you go to, the more interactions with other people that you're going to see. Well, wait a minute, don't I want to see the interactions? Yes, you do. We'll chat about that. Basically, what you want to do is you want to see what's most important to you, and then you want to ignore everything else. And that's part of the whole productive process. So, as you look at the whole social media is addicting thing, we go to as few sites as is possible. And then the other thing is we go as few times a day as is possible. I know people, you know people. You might even be one of these people. You are people. You might be one of these types who has Twitter open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I've known people who have purchased additional monitors for their computer to keep their social network open. I know people whose phones buzz when, some sort of social contact has been made. No, that'll kill you. As part of the elimination of distractions, you go in as few times a day as is humanly possible. I go in twice a day. Really, Paul? Yes, I'll show you how. You want to understand that although social media feels like there's an immediate need, if somebody tweets, there's this feeling that you want to respond immediately. That's a lie. That's not true. That's not something that you have to do. You can go in as few times a day as is possible. Now, there may be times, there may be situations when you have to be in there all the time. If you're with a larger organization, there are tools that track that. But the fact of the matter, going in, you want to go into as few sites as possible. You want to go into as few times a day as is possible. Why? Because social media is addicting. So with that, if it is addicting, and it is such a nuisance, and it is so big, how do we, why do we bother? Why do we deal with this? Well, simply, let's first take a look at the raw numbers. The official, at the time of this recording, the official number hasn't come out yet, but Facebook has either passed 1 billion people or is teetering on it, and they're very, very soon. 1 billion people. 1 out of every 7 people on the planet are on Facebook. Now, they're obviously the 800-pound gorilla, but hundreds of millions at Twitter, hundreds of millions at Google+. These are massive, massive gatherings of people. And if you're going to use the internet to communicate, you want to take a look at the simple raw numbers, and you want to go where people are. I mean, that's just a strategy. But even deeper than going where people are, you want to understand Web 1.0 versus Web 2.0. Web 1.0 is where we started. And Web 1.0 is this. It remains this. And it's not a bad strategy. It's just an element of the web. Web 1.0 was you on the internet on your terms. Your website, your domain name, your email address. That is Web 1.0. And it's not bad. Amazon does a tremendous job of being a Web 1.0 company. Yeah, you might be on another website, that is selling something on Amazon, but when you click over, you order from Amazon. You interact with Amazon. Amazon is very much a Web 1.0 company. Amazon is very much a profitable company. So I'm not saying Web 1.0 is bad, but realize that the majority of the world, the majority of where we're at, where everything is going, is to the Web 2.0 space. The Web 1.0 was you on the internet on your terms. Web 2.0 is you on the internet on the terms of your customer. What does this mean? This means that if your customer is at Facebook, you need to be at Facebook. If your customer is at Twitter, you need to be at Twitter. If your customer is at Google+, you need to be at Google+. You have to be where they are. And then again, if we go back to this raw numbers thing, they're on social media more than they are anywhere else. And it's just it's a service issue. You know, recently Jack in the Box started serving breakfast all day long. Why? Because some people want breakfast all day long. And Jack in the Box owns that market because, you know, they've made that available. And the fact of the matter is, if you're at one place and one option, they're much less likely to interact with you, and they're much less likely to work with you, and they're much less likely to be part of who it is you are and what it is that you are doing if they have to meet you on their terms. If you meet them where they are, everything changes. Now, the one cool thing, the one element that a lot of people don't understand is that the Web 2.0 is powered by RSS. What is that? RSS is a technology. It stands for Real Simple Syndication, but all it means is that there is a way for a lot of these tools to share information back and forth with each other. There's a common language that they all speak. And this reality of Web 2.0, it's one of the benefits of 2.0, this lets us use some of the tools, and it makes some of the tools that we're going to examine today possible. You know, if this was an issue of there are just multiple sites that you have to be on, and there are multiple places that you have to be, you know, if there wasn't some sort of aggregation, if there wasn't some sort of way to bring all of this together in one place, you'd be in a really bad place. And a lot of people do treat Web 2.0 like that. A lot of people will get up in the morning and they'll go to Facebook and they'll interact with the Facebook stuff, and they'll go to Twitter and they'll interact with the Twitter stuff, you know, and then they'll publish something to their blog, and they'll have all of these single moments. They don't bring it all together. And the thing is this is possible with Web 2.0, possible with the RSS technology, part of what we're going to take a look at today. So, Frank Kern, love him or hate him, the boy's a genius in terms of the reality of things. And you know, Frank Kern has a concept of real productive work. And Frank Kern teaches that the stuff that gets customers or makes money is the real productive work. And you know, Frank Kern jokes that, you know, sometimes people only spend 2 hours a day on real productive work. But the fact of the matter is, they may be right. And we see this inside of social media. We see this everywhere. You know, you at the office, there's that guy who always seems to be taking the coffee break, or always playing solitaire, or always on the phone, you know, with his mom, or something like that. The stuff that gets customers or makes money is real productive work. And what you want to do with social media, the very first step in social media productivity, is that you think of social media as a way to get customers or make money. And if it's what it's doing is not getting customers or making money, it's fine, enjoy it, but realize that it's not real productive work. And if it's not real productive work, it's a hobby, and, you know, hobbies are not the type of things that you want to be productive at. I think what happens is a lot of us go to social media because we think we're supposed to, and we don't see it through the lens of stuff that gets us customers or stuff that makes us money. So that's how we're going to look at this. And we're going to go deeper into this later. Basically, stuff that gets customers or makes money is the first thing that you can do in the world of real productive work. The second thing that you can do in the world of real productive work is the fulfillment of services. You know, at some point, if you sell something, at some point you have to deliver what it is that you've sold. And a great example is right now, I've been selling this webinar for a while. We now have a bunch of people on the webinar. We have a lot more of you listening to or watching the recording of this webinar. So right now I am in phase 2 of real productive work. I am in the fulfillment of services. But the thing is, if you are not doing stuff that gets customers or makes money, or you are not in the fulfillment of services, then you are not doing real productive work. Gonna let that sink in. It's an important one. Now, be honest with yourself. If you've done any work with social media, there's some customer getting inside of social media, but not a lot of it. there's just a lot of playing around, and there's a lot of looking at hobbies and that kind of stuff. And that's not necessarily bad, but you don't want to call it work. And so as we look at social media through the Frank Kern lens of real productive work. Are you doing stuff that gets customers or makes money? Are you working on the fulfillment of services? If it's one of those two things, and by the way, there's very little fulfillment of services through social media. So really it's that first one, and you know that. Let's get to there. All right. So at some point, obviously, social media comes into play. Now, social media, if you spend enough time, I'm sorry, let me rephrase. At some point, social media is of value to you. And once you pass that point, at some point, social media becomes a waste of time. So how do you discern the two? How do you get between the two? How do you figure out when it is valuable to you? And how do you figure out when it is a waste of time to what it is that you're doing? Well, here's the deal. It's valuable to you when you own the process. And that's today's focus. It's valuable to you when social media becomes real productive work. It's valuable to you when you're using social media for stuff that gets you customers or makes you money, or you're using social media for fulfillment of services. And again, that second one really doesn't happen a lot. So social media is of a value to you when you own the process and you are using it to do stuff that gets customers or makes money. That is the focus today. Social media becomes a waste to you when it owns you. And this is where most people are at. And this is where most people approach social media today. This is the process that most people go through. And this is the process that I want to rescue you from. So social media, valuable when it's real productive work, not valuable when it's a time waster. Okay. Starting to see this? Is this starting to come together? Again, for those of you watching live, if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the Q&A interface. I pop in there every once in a while, and we'll see if there's anything going on. Now, let's talk about the concept of Nevergreen. In the world of information, in the world of publishing, in the world of information products, the goal, the greatest thing you can do at any given point is you can write content that is evergreen. What is evergreen? Evergreen is content that's always good. Is content that always has a shelf life. My father has a blog about the gluten-free lifestyle, and he has a 4-year-old article on his blog about gluten-free soy sauce. And you think, is this really an issue? Is this something that you have to worry about? This piece of content is visited over about 100 times a day and has been so for the last 4 years. And this thing continues to make my dad money. And the great thing about it is the content was written in such a way, the content was designed in such a way that he doesn't have to go back and change that content. That's evergreen content. That is the best possible content out there. I'm attempting to give you a social media productivity webinar that is as evergreen as possible, but let's admit it, new players are going to come up, new tools are going to come up. The shelf life of this is certainly not evergreen. I'm going to make it as evergreen as possible, and we've got some stuff in here because that's the focus. That's what you want to do when you're building something like this. But the truth of the matter is, in many ways, social media is the opposite of evergreen. Social media is nevergreen. The half-life of social media, and this is hard, but the half-life of social media is 5 minutes. You're going to get half of your attention in the first 5 minutes. And after that, it goes away really badly. I mean, think about it. You know this. If you log into Facebook and you look at your social updates, the stuff that's 3 or 4 pages down, you're not going to read unless you're really addicted. If you're following a lot of people on Twitter and, you've got, post after post after post, you're not going to read every single one that has happened since the last time you've logged in. I mean, you just can't. There's so much stuff. And so what happens is social media has a half-life of 5 minutes. So whereas, you've got content that's good for years on the internet, or if you've got content outside of the internet, I think of the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I mean, that thing's been out for decades and it hasn't changed. When we're on the internet, we're almost the exact opposite. Instead of having a long shelf life, it has a short shelf life, and you have to think about it accordingly. I mean, how long can you spend creating something that has a decade-long lifeline? Well, a lot more than you can spend something that has a lifeline of 10 minutes, an hour. Let me give you an example of this. I do very well in the world of social media. It's a good part of my world. It's a good part of my business. But I just want to show you the reality of Nevergreen content. And I did this test because I wanted to show this on this webinar. So I'm really excited about this. This is the first time I have released it to an audience such as this. Now, what's interesting here is I had another webinar that I did. And what I did was I made 5 tickets available on each one of the social networks. 5 free tickets. So I had 5 free tickets for Twitter, 5 free tickets for Google+, 5 free tickets for Facebook. And these were free tickets to get in. It was a coupon code so you didn't have to pay kind of thing. And then I mailed my mailing list, not the free coupon code, but I actually mailed them the ticket. The opportunity for them to invest in the webinar. And I sent one Twitter message saying, hey, here's a coupon code to get the webinar for free. I sent one Google Plus post with a message saying, here's the coupon code to get the webinar for free. I did one Facebook fan page listing to say, here's how you get the webinar for free. And then 6,275 people on my mailing list, I said, here's where you can buy access to the webinar. Here's how you can invest, not get it for free. What were the results? This might surprise you. For the Twitter followers, I only was able to give away 2 tickets. And I stopped counting after 10 days. There were still 3 coupon codes available when I was done taking the numbers for this thing. What, Paul? Really? You offered a free coupon code to 17,178 Twitter followers and only 2 of them took you up on this? Yes. What do you attribute that to, Paul? Are these Twitter followers nonsense? No, these are people who legitimately, I don't use that crazy Twitter adding stuff. These are people who at one point or another decided they wanted to follow me on Twitter. Now, we know a lot of them have left Twitter. We know that there's a lot of wasteland inside of Twitter, a lot of ghost town inside of Twitter. But the fact of the matter is that the 17,000 people, there got to be 5. I mean, if they chose to follow me on Twitter, wouldn't they be interested in a free coupon for the webinar? You'd think so. Now, maybe the topic was boring. Maybe nobody's interested in me. Or maybe that message with that free coupon got lost in the void, got lost in the noise, got lost in the midst of everything. I truly believe that that was it. I get a good response from Twitter. I just have to give that message multiple times. More on that later. So 17,178 Twitter followers could not get me 5 people to get into a webinar for free that I was charging for elsewhere. Interesting, huh? I know some of you are thinking now, I better follow Paul on Twitter. Yes, but it gets even more interesting. 6,071 Google Plus followers. So about 1/3 as many Twitter followers. I was able to fulfill that in 2 days. But 2 days, if you think about it, 6,000 people following what it is that I have to say. And it took 2 days to get rid of the coupon. Interesting. We go to the Facebook fans, and the same message. The only difference between them was the coupon code, obviously for the tracking. Of the Facebook fans, all 5 were taken in about 72 minutes. Considerably faster, considerably less. So 2,800 Facebook fans, 72 minutes versus 17,000, couldn't even make it happen in 10 days. It's part of that half-life thing. So, Paul, are you saying Facebook fans are better than Twitter fans? Yeah, probably most of the time. But again, if we go back to the thing where I said you got to be where people are, I have people who follow me on Twitter who don't follow me on Facebook. That should be obvious. Look at the numbers. You know, there are 14,000 some odd people who follow me on Twitter who don't follow me on Facebook. And whereas I'd prefer they be in Facebook, you know, I'll take them on Twitter, I'll take them on Google+. I don't care. My job in the Web 2.0 space is to take customers on their terms. So if it took me 10 days, a single message, couldn't even get 5 Twitter followers to take it seriously. Single message Google Plus followers, 2 days. Single message Facebook fans, 72 minutes. What happened with the mailing list of 6,200 people? Well, the mailing list of 6,200 people, I sold 5 tickets in less than 5 minutes from when the thing went out. Half-life of social media is 5 minutes. People are distracted. It's not that viable. It's not that powerful. Well, Paul, what do you do with this? Why are you even messing with social media when you can't give it away free on social media, but you can sell it quickly on email? What in the heck are you doing? Well, I will show you. I have a plan. I have a process. I have a purpose. I have a reason. The other thing we need to talk about, and this is an element of social media, but this is also an element of the world that we live in today. There's a very real issue of message fatigue. And message fatigue is this. Basically, really, it's hard to put an exact definition on it, but people are tired of all the messages. They're tired of all the tweets. They're tired of all the Facebook updates, the Google Plus updates, you know, the Pinterest boards, all these things. They're so tired, and there's so many that message fatigue is simply, it is now socially acceptable to miss a message. You know, and this has happened fairly recently. I mean, if you think about it, you've probably seen this in your experience and in your existence. You know, a year ago, if somebody missed your email, they would say, I'm so sorry, I missed your email, something went wrong. You know, they apologize. It wasn't socially acceptable. Now it's, you know, I never got that email. Spam box must have taken. Sorry, I didn't get to that. It's become acceptable to not read tweets. It's become acceptable to follow somebody on Facebook and not care what it is that they have to say. To me, I find that hard. I get a lot of flack for only following about 50 people on Twitter. Well, those are the only people that I want to hear everything that they have to say, and I read everything that they have to say. Really, Paul? Yes. We'll chat about those tools later. But the fact of the matter is now with messaging fatigue, not only is it hard to get their attention, not only does it have a half-life, but you have an audience who doesn't even necessarily have a vested interest in getting your communication. So what in the world do we do with this? What are the implications of this? Well, the implications of it are this. Never assume your audience is going to see any single posting. What? What do I do with that? Well, you need to give the same message multiple times. You need to increase the odds that they're going to see it. You have to put yourself in such a way that email, Facebook, Twitter, everything else is delivering the same message. So that what happens is they might not get it on email, they might not get it on Twitter, but they might get it on Facebook. You know, they might not get it anywhere else, but they happen to find it on Google+. This is part of cross-channel marketing. And if you take a look, I've got a book in the Kindle store. I don't make this an ad, but in the Kindle store, and soon on iBooks, but at the time of this recording, Kindle only, I've got a book called Cross-Channel Social Media Marketing, which is all about this. And I'm hitting people in all the different places. So go ahead and take a look at that. But so we have Nevergreen, which means we cannot assume that the audience is ever going to see our posting. So what is the value of social media? You know, what do we do with this? What is our focus? You know, how do we get to the right place? So the purpose of social media is to get us back to real productive work, which is back to Frank Kern. We use social media to get stuff, to do stuff that gets customers or makes money, or we use social media for the fulfillment of services. Now, obviously, the fulfillment of services is only a very tiny level inside of social media. So really, we need to use social media to get ourselves customers or make us money. How do we do that? How do we do that productively? So, value of social media is if we use it to get back to real work. The value of social media is if we're fast at it. A lot of social media contacts, a lot there. There's a purpose to go into Twitter, but you saw it's pretty thin. If I spend a lot of time on Twitter, I am wasting my time. So what I've got to do is I've got to be able to go to Twitter quickly. And I've got to be able to have a message there. I've got to be able to reach that audience quickly without a lot of thought. It's got to be as automated and as quick and as fast as is humanly possible. So if I could deal with Twitter on a quick, speedy type of situation, that's what we'll do. But boy, if it's going to take a lot of time, if any of this is going to take a lot of time, I am up a creek. Social media is very good in response time. And this is one of the real values of social media. Because people are everywhere, and it's okay that people are everywhere, we have to acknowledge that fact, and we have to recognize that fact and deal with that fact in our business and what it is that we're doing. So everybody wants to be acknowledged. So here's the cool thing. If anybody ever tweets about you, acknowledge it. If anybody does a Facebook post and tags you or puts you in Google Plus and pluses you and it's not a spam type of situation, you want to acknowledge that. You want to use social media to respond. And think about this. You know, if you are interested in a brand, in a rock star, you know, in a movie director, in a book author, and if you say something about that person in the social space and they respond to you, they acknowledge your presence, there is a connection there. There is an amazing connection there that, you know, money can't buy, to be honest. And that's one of the real valuable places of social media is in response. So I take a great deal of value in that, and you'll see a lot of the tools deal with that. You got speedy options for response. You know, email takes a lot of work, and if you get physical mail or a phone call or something, these things can go, they can take a lot of time, and they can suck your life dry. And the great thing is a tweet can be responded to in a matter of seconds. You know, Facebook can be acknowledged in a matter of seconds. A lot of your social media responses can be just done very, very quickly with the snap of a finger, and that's of value, and that's part of the strength of what social media brings to the table. And the cool thing about response is it's not just for the person who you're responding to. If Frank reaches out to me on Twitter, and I respond to Frank, and when I say respond in a moral, ethical, Frank is a valuable person kind of way. Don't see this as a manipulative technique. Frank is investigating me and investigating what I bring to the world and investigating whether or not he wants to interact with me. So Frank says something on Twitter and I respond. That's just a way of me showing Frank that I'm real and showing Frank that I'm part of this. But the cool thing here with social media, in the old days, if Frank sent me an email and I responded to Frank, it was a private communication between me and Frank. What's cool now is if Frank reaches out to me in social media and I respond to Frank in social media, even if Frank doesn't see it, there's potential for 18,000 some odd Twitter followers to see it, potential for 6,000 some odd Google Plus followers to see it. Response is huge. Everybody wants to be acknowledged. You got speedy options for response inside of social networking, and it's not just for the person. So valuable stuff. See how this is coming together? Now, it's all about processes, not tools. Everybody wants the secret sauce. Everybody wants to know what it is that's gonna, you know, make it all come together quickly. Well, the fact of the matter is the tools will change. At the time of this recording, it's Thursday, April 12th, 2012. These are my favorite tools. I think these tools are going to be around for a while, but it's not the tools that are important. It's the processes that are important. And it's just how the tools help with the processes. And what kind of processes? Processes that help you with real productive work, processes that help you do the stuff that gets customers or makes money, and or the fulfillment of services. So the tools are going to change. Don't care. The processes are what's important. So you got to ask yourself, you know, what is it that you want to do? You know, what is it that you want to do that gets customers or makes money? That's the question that you have to ask. And then what tool is the best tool for the job of using social media to do the thing that gets customers or makes money? And the answer is plain, simple, easy. When you're looking at the tools, hold on, there's a little more here. When you look at the tools, you want to look at them through this lens. What can I automate? If there's anything that can possibly be automated, how do I automate it? Question number one. how can I combine? Are there things that I can do together? I mean, if it does one task, that's great, but if it does two, even better. If it does three, even better. What can I automate? What can I combine? What work can the computers do for me? You know, I joke about this, but we do a lot of work that we shouldn't be doing. Computers are here to do our bidding, and these are the questions that we want to look at the tools. If the tools require you to do more work, this, by the way, is why I am a big Apple fan. It's a lot less work for me to manage my Apple computers and my iOS devices than it is for me to manage my Windows computers and my, Windows or BlackBerry devices. The computer should do the work for me. So when I look at a tool, what can I automate? What can I combine? What work can the computers do for me? And then finally, this one is interesting. A lot of people miss this. How can I log on, and in social media specifically, how can I log on to as few sites as is humanly possible? Remember we talked earlier about the distractions, about the advertising, about the other friends, that type of thing. How can I log on to few sites as is humanly possible? Now, at the time of this recording, I don't regularly log into my blog. I very seldom go to my blog anymore. Well, how is this possible, Paul? You're blogging all the time. I will show you. I very seldom log into my blog, and I very seldom write. Well, I haven't written a blog piece for a couple of months now. How is that possible? Okay? All coming together. Twitter. I very, very, very seldom log onto Twitter. How is that possible, Paul? 18,000 users. When you sent that message with the coupon code. I did it not by logging in to Twitter. Facebook's another one. Oh, Facebook with all the ads and all the friends and all the pop-ups. I mean, Facebook can drive you crazy. We're going to go to Facebook really quickly. I've logged in a few minutes ago. Nothing new has happened since I logged in, 36 minutes ago when we started this webinar. But the fact of the matter is, when you go into Facebook, a lot of stuff vying for your attention. YouTube. But Paul, you're the YouTube guy. Yes, I don't regularly log into YouTube. My tools automate. My tools combine. My tools let the computers do as much work for me as is humanly possible. And as a result, I log into as few sites as possible so that I get distracted as little times as is possible. And I get more work done. What kind of work? The work that gets me customers or makes me money. The value of social media is in using social media to bring people into the fold. Remember I ran you those numbers? Remember I showed you that webinar? I use social media to bring people into my fold. Now the funny thing is, a bunch of you are on this webinar because of social media. Great, you're in the fold. You're part of the team. You are inside. Welcome. Glad to have you in the family. A number of you are on this webinar because you got an email. Great. Love to have you. Be part of the family. Some of you are going to be on my email list as a result of this webinar. Some of you are on this webinar as a result of the email list. Doesn't matter. I use social media to either bring people to the list that brought people to this webinar that makes me money, or I use this webinar to bring people into my list that makes me money. Value is in purpose, speed, response, processes, not tools, and in bringing people into my fold, my list. That's where the revenue is for me. That is where the revenue is for you. Now we've got a question in here that I think is extremely appropriate. It's one that people ask a lot, and so I understand the question. When one automates, don't you lose the real engagement or personalization in the connections? The potential is there to lose the real engagement or personalization in the questions. The potential is totally there. Two responses. Response number one. Is it a bad thing to lose real engagement? Is it a bad thing to lose personalization? That's the first question you have to ask. Now, in some cases, yes, it's obviously a terrible thing to lose engagement, lose personalization. But in some cases, it's not. If you have decided to join me in the world of social media, if you, for some reason, have joined me on Twitter, I know nothing about you. That's okay. If I start a conversation with you that says something like, I know nothing about you, tell me about yourself. Well, dear friend, I know nothing about you. So therefore, I cannot personalize, I cannot engage, and I can certainly automate that process. Now, once in Twitter, I've said I don't know you, can you tell me about yourself? Once you've told me about yourself, yes, at that point, that automation process is something that I want to take personally. I want to take hand by hand, but that comes a little bit later. And the thing is let's say you've responded to my, hey, let's get to know each other thing. If I wait around all day long for your response and I'm checking Twitter every 5 minutes to see if that response is there, that is a complete waste of time. If I've got a process in place and I've got automation that identifies when you've responded to me and lets me answer quickly and faster and brings it up to the top of the rank, that's where the automation comes into play. So I am fine with automation. Sometimes it's extremely unpersonal, but sometimes it's extremely unpersonal because it doesn't need to be personal. But on the other side, I love automation that makes it possible for me to engage, that makes it possible for me to interact. Hope that makes sense. And if that doesn't make sense, go ahead and put another question there in the box and we will answer accordingly. So again, the fundamentals are social media is addicting. You got to admit it, you got to leverage it, and you got to respond to it. You got to bother because it's huge. It's a bigger part of the internet than anything else. It's what your customers expect, and it's what your customers, gosh darn it, deserve. You take the concept of real productive work, of doing the things that gets you customers or makes you money. If you see social media through that lens, you will build processes that will help you to get more customers or make some money. At some point, social media obviously can become a distraction, can be a time suck. What you have to do is you have to deal with that before that happens. You need to realize, you need to understand that more than anything, social media is never green. It has an extremely short shelf life. We are in a world of message fatigue, and we have to deal with our messaging accordingly. We have to build plans and strategies accordingly. And then finally, simple, the value of social media is in purposeful interaction, speed, responses, processes, not tools. And then finally, at the end, using social media to bring you into your fold and bring you into your list. So that's the fundamentals. Let's get to the tools. Now, this tool list I have built alphabetically. I did it alphabetically because I don't want anyone to think that one tool is more important than the other. This is not a list of my top favorite tools. This is just simply a list of the tools that I use at this time. So I want you to think of these. They're all great tools. I think these are tools that are going to have a tremendous shelf life. They will probably good for the years to come. But if you're consuming this at a later date and tool X is out of the way, reach out to me on Twitter or reach out to me on one of the social networks and say, hey, in your social media productivity piece, you mentioned this one, this is dead, what do I use now? Hey, you're a customer, you're part of the family, I will respond to you. So with that said and done, let's take a look at these tools. Now the first tool is a tool called Buffer App. And Buffer App, I'm going to go over here to the web. Yes, we are getting to the web. I'm going to go to bufferapp.com. Now, bufferapp.com at www.getthisbufferapp.com. Buffer is a way to buffer out your tweets. What does that mean? Well, today it's 6:05 p.m. So at 20 minutes, I'm going to tweet, question, why is Rainn Wilson so awesome at social media? At 6:06 tomorrow morning, I am going to tweet that Amazon plans to lower ebook prices, but I'm going to question whether or not they need to, with a link. 7:45, I'm going to mention the fact that Apple has introduced VIP discounts for iBook publishers, and 11:01, the fact that YouTube favorites Hunter and Bear have returned for a time-tripping sequel. Now, so Paul, is this like a scheduling system? Is this just where you go and what you want to say when you want to say it? Yes, but this is an extremely automated scheduling system. Let me show you how automated this is. Let's go to something like TechMeme. TechMeme.com is a website of the latest news, what's happening in terms of the industry, what are the things that we need to think about, what are the things that we need to deal with in the technology industry, not necessarily the marketing industry, but it's a website that I appreciate and I enjoy. Let's see an article here. A lot of stuff happened with Google. I'll have to read that later. Okay. When I recorded this, Instagram had been purchased by Facebook for $1 billion. It's a topic that is getting a lot of attention. So let's take a look at this article. And as part of the New York Times deal book. Oh yeah, the New York Times. I know this organization. This is a good article. This is an article that I should probably share with my audience. Now, of course, it's always fun when you do a webinar like this, and of course things go slow. But so I read this, and I go, yeah, this is a great piece. I definitely want to share this. Now, the great thing here is I can go to my Chrome extension called Buffer for Chrome. I click on this, and what it does is it pops up the name of the article, the link to the article. I can edit it if I want. If I want to go, for instance, let's say I wanted to say from the New York Times, I can do that. It has the countdown number to how many things fit inside of Twitter. And I can either post now. If I wanted to send it to Twitter right now, I could click on the post now button. But what's more interesting and what's more powerful is that I click on the add to buffer button inside of Dashboard. I click on that, and now it adds it to my buffer. What is that? Back to the buffer here. You can see now that the Instagram deal is scheduled to come out at 2/12 tomorrow. What happens is I keep a buffer, hence the term buffer app, of content and information that I want to share with my audience. And it comes out at these strategic times. These are just times where I seem to see some activity. And the great thing is if I can decide that this Instagram deal is really important, I can drag this up here, make that one go out first, and it'll reorganize itself in a second here. But I've got this buffer that makes things really powerful. So all day long, I can drip content into my buffer. And I can drip content into my buffer 3 different ways. Automation from Google Plus is a misnomer. Ignore that. It's automation from Google Reader, which I will show you when I get to Google Reader. iOS bookmark. When I installed Buffer, I have on iOS, which is my iPhone device and my iPad device, I have the ability, when I see an article that I really like, to just pull down a bookmark inside of my browser and instantly send it to Buffer. Now, this is not just an iPhone thing. Buffer has options for this for the Android and I think even for the Windows Phone. But basically, if I happen to be browsing the web on my iPad, which I do a lot, it's a great browsing device, I can send something to Buffer. And if I'm on my iPhone, I can send something to Buffer. If I'm on my desktop using Chrome, I can send something to Buffer. So as the day passes and there's something I want to share, I just throw it into the Buffer. Now, let's go back to the realization that not everybody's going to read this. What is my message? My message is quite simply, hey, Paul keeps attention to what's going on in the industry. And Paul shares the articles that are important. And Paul offers this service for free, so he's somebody that I might want to pay attention to. So if nobody reads, if nobody clicks through on my link about the Instagram deal, I'm fine. I've still done my message. How much time did that really take? And again, I don't normally go out to TechMeme. The visit to TechMeme was to give you guys an idea of what's going on. Check this out, though, something that's really interesting. I can click on Analytics, and I can see how my sharings went. This one got 4 clicks. This one got 4 clicks. This one got 3. This one got 3. This one got 5, 4, 15. Why did this one get 15? This one has a lot more attention. Why is it? Well, it's Google Plus. It's got a new look. People are interested in that. wow, so I can sit down and I can go through the stats, and I can find which one of my tweets are the big winners. Which are the ones that gets people's attention? 25? Wow. Got a hot app? Microsoft will pay top dollar for Windows Phone versions. Interesting. So the Buffer app lets me drip things in, lets me find what my audience is up to, lets me do it anytime, any place, anywhere. I can do it from iOS, so my iPhone or my iPad when I'm viewing the internet. I can do it from my desktop. And I can do it from automation, which I will show you when we get to the Google Reader part and to see what's happening there. Somebody asked, do you recommend tweeting out the same message to reach a wider audience? I don't send out the exact same message because the people who are interested in what it is that I have to say, I don't want to let them know that, well, hey, nobody else is, the people who do listen, I'm going to bore you by telling you the same thing over and over again. That, I might do the same theme, but a different message. So message 1 for this webinar might have been, hey, I'm doing this webinar. Message number 2 is, the early bird tickets are about to sell out. Message number 3 might be that the early bird tickets have sold out. Message number 4 might be that the webinar is in a couple of hours, but realize that all 4 of those messages are saying the same thing. I'm doing a webinar. Here's the link. So that's Buffer app. Buffer app is a great tool. There's actually an iOS app as well, and it's a pretty great little piece of software. Now, Content Timeline. Watch this. Let's go to Google+. I want to show you something. We're going to share it with New Today. I love doing webinars. As I type this, I've got a bunch of folk watching the webinar live, and I have even more watching the recording at a later date. I can teach from the power, I can teach from the comfort of my own home and share the stuff that I really love. The internet has made my business pretty fun. How about you? So I post this thing to Google+. Now, who cares, Paul? What does that have to do with Content Timeline? Let's take a look at my blog today. And while the blog's loading up here, let's go back to Google+. We're going to look at my most recent post since this one. I love doing webinars. The nerd in the front row. This is what happens when you live stream an event. You get to watch it on the laptop 5 seconds before everyone else gets to watch it. Gets to watching it in real life. Why does that U2 song Better Than the Real Thing come to mind? And then I've got a link to actually Facebook, where I have this funny picture. This is a webcast that I was involved with. It was a streaming of a movie here in Portland. Kind of fun. And if you look right there, you can see me in the front row with the laptop dealing with the chat room. I just thought it was a funny picture. And so I posted it to Google+. I thought that was fun. Now, what Content Timeline does, oh yes, what Content Timeline does is Content Timeline grabbed my piece from Google+ and published it into my blog. I didn't go to my blog to publish this. It's something that Content Timeline did for me automatically. It publishes anything I wanted to publish from Google. It publishes anything I wanted to publish from YouTube. The next YouTube video that I do, when it goes to YouTube, and by the way, I won't publish it at YouTube. We'll show you that a little bit later. It will pick up the YouTube video. It can pick up Twitter. I'm still trying to find the pattern for Twitter. You'll see that very soon, not in time for this recording. But what Content Timeline does, and they're at contenttimeline.com, is it takes the information and it just automatically fills the blog accordingly. So now I can blog from Google+. Well, Paul, why are you blogging from Google+? Why aren't you blogging from Facebook? I can blog from there as well. I can blog from wherever I want to blog. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you a little bit later. You'll see, hopefully at about the top of the hour, I think it checks about every hour, it will pull from Google+, and it'll put it right inside of the of the blog. So that's Content Timeline. And Content Timeline, you know, as you can see here, I did my quick Google Plus posting. And before we're done with this webinar, quite probably it will be part of my blog. Another tool that makes the automation awesome. Hootsuite. Oh, I love Hootsuite. Let's go to Hootsuite. Hootsuite is powerful on a lot of levels. The Hootsuite dashboard. All right. Now, let's take a look at, make sure that all these are, okay, phew, I just realized. So, over here in this first row of Hootsuite, I have everybody who has mentioned me inside of Twitter. Now, the cool thing here is Social Media ACTV. Social Media retweeted one of my articles that I published as a result of Buffer App. So think about this. I saw this article about the new live stream broadcaster. I shared that via Buffer. It came out of Buffer at some point. I don't know when. Put a gun to my head. I can't tell you when it happened. And then they retweeted it. Social proof, automated as part of the results. Very cool. Gaiagia said blessings to me already today. Nice. I responded. I got a retweet. You know, I've got somebody who mentioned something that I said. I've got somebody who put me in one of their, you know, top stories. And this is what I've got. All the mentions that have come to me on Twitter come to me in one stream. Awesome. These are the direct messages. I'm glad there was nothing in here that I wasn't supposed to show you. Don Miller, Ask Mr. Video, Mike Stelzner. I'm responding, you know, back and forth. These are the direct messages that are coming in. This is how I don't go to twitter.com. You know, it's all here. The home feed. These are the people that I'm tracking inside of Twitter. I track Duct Tape Marketing. I track Mari Smith. I don't track DYCK. I don't know who DYCK is, but I track CC Chapman, who retweeted this link. So the great thing is I can go quickly through and see what Duct Tape and Mr. Video and Blue Like Jazz and, you know, all these things are popping up, and I can find out what's going on, and it's easy and it's simple, and that's how I catch up with what is happening inside of my Twitter. But what's great here is that it's not just Twitter, it's Facebook. So this Eileen Smith here at 12:21 today, she says, calling all Facebook pros, how can I move my Facebook page up on the list so that it's not hidden all the time? Kimberly J, Cassowary, Ching Ya, Amy Porterfield, Paul Call can help. So what I'm guessing here is that she's got this problem, and if we click on the link here, she's basically showing that her page is hiding there, and you know, she wants to know how to bring it up, so she's asked for favors, she's tagged, she's reached out, she did this on Facebook. So the great thing here is I can make a comment, and I can make the comment right here. Oops. Actually, no, I can't make the comment because she just tagged me. That's right, I can't make the comment on this one because she tagged me. That's fine. Let's scroll up a little bit here. So I did a quick thing. What questions about social media productivity should I be sure that I answer? You know, Kelly Hodgson here says, I've heard you talk a lot about automation. What kind of things do you automate? Well, actually, I'm showing that right now, Kelly. And so I can make a comment now here on Facebook that says something like, well, Kelly, if you were here, you could see that I pretty much try to automate as much as I can, you know, while still personalizing the experience. As a matter of fact, I'm answering this because of an automation tool. And you see, the cool thing here is I just posted to my Facebook page as a result of me being inside of the same tool that helped me out with Twitter. Oh my goodness. So if we go back to Facebook here, and we go back to my fan page, and you can see here that Kelly Hodgson commented on my link, and you can see my comments right there. Now, I don't need to, obviously, every time I make a comment, go and check. I'm just, you know, showing you this process. So, you know, Hootsuite so far, Let's do a page refresh here. Yep. So while we were doing this, my blog was updated with the I Love Doing Webinars post from Google Plus all in the background. So you see, in the last couple of minutes, I published to Facebook without touching Facebook. I published to my blog without touching my blog. I published to Twitter without touching Twitter. Pretty cool stuff if you think about it. And not only does Hootsuite have Twitter, and not only does Hootsuite have Facebook, but also has it also has my videos as well. So here's a video that I did instead of YouTube. 3 comments. Hey, if you want to market on Facebook, try our unique software. Facebook Dominator, check my channel. That one has been flagged for spam already. This one was earlier. I answered this. You're doing a Google ad, but I can find out what the comments are. This is a private recording. Here's one with 6 comments. I want to make sure that all the comments have been made and responded to. But now I can go into Facebook. I can respond. I'm sorry, YouTube. So Twitter allows me to respond to everything that's going on across my social networks. Now at this point, Hootsuite does not do Google Plus yet. That's okay. The word is they will be doing it soon, but it's there. Also inside of Hootsuite is the ability to schedule stuff. So we go here and we go to scheduling, and let's say today at 6:10 p.m. let's say, yes, Virginia, you can schedule your tweets. Comes out today, 6:10 p.m. I can have an email me when the message is sent. I'm not necessarily worried about it. I can schedule it. And by the way, I can do bulk messaging as well. So with this simple Hootsuite tool, I can see what's happening across all my social networks. I can read what's happening across all my social networks. I can comment on the stuff that I'm allowed to comment across all the social networks. This bad boy is an extremely powerful tool. Scheduling tool, a monitoring tool. I don't have to touch Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube. Cool stuff. IFTTT.com. IFTTT.com. If this, then that.com. If this, then that is a builder that allows you to, like it says here, put the internet to work for you. And we're not going to log into my account. But basically, you do tasks like if this, then that. You got a trigger. If something happens, then you make something else happen. And it works with Twitter, it works with Facebook, it works with a lot of cool places. So basically, you can do things like you can say, if, LT Tibbetts does a new photo inside of Instagram, then, grab it to my Dropbox. Save all my Instagram photos to my Dropbox. They've got all these recipes. They've got these amazing, amazing, cool recipes here. And these are all been done, and these have been programmed by somebody else. And I use a number of these, but check out what's awesome. Here we go. Thanking people in Twitter when they mention you or retweet. Show those people who mentioned me. I could automate the process of thanking people for mentioning me on Twitter. A bit insincere. I wouldn't necessarily do that, but that's there. And this tool is just tremendous. There's all sorts of, when a new album is added to Amazon's top free MP3 email. I mean, this is so cool. This is so absolutely cool. So I use if this, then that inside of Google Reader. And I will show you that when we get to Google Reader. I use it for a number of other things, but the automation for social media will make sense in a second. Instant Customer. InstantCustomer.com. I chat about Instant Customer a lot in cross-channel social media marketing. Not as much a commercial as it is just that's where that's covered. If you go to Instant Customer, and in full disclosure, it is a company that I'm working with. But Instant Customer is it's the evolution of follow-up, and it's a way to deal with people in all the different ways. It's a way to deal with the message fatigue of cross-channel marketing. I can text people, I can call people, I can send voicemail messages to people's inboxes automatically. I can send people postcards. I can do it all with Instant Customer. And it's a pretty valuable tool. And let me show you just one example of where I use it. If we go to youtube.com/Colligan, which is my YouTube channel, and I'm going to hit pause here before this starts. If you notice my channel at YouTube, right here, says call 503-212-4676 or email followup@paulcolligan.com. This is a follow-up process. I get people who come to visit me on YouTube, and if you think about it, you know, I've got 3,433 subscribers. I've got nearly 250,000 views of my specialty, you know, videos. People come by, some see this, and some respond. Now, I've got a lot of places where I have this phone number and I have this follow-up process. And if you aren't part of this, I highly recommend that you do. Do you see what I just did here? I'm using social media to build my list. But Instant Customer manages my list for me. It does a great job. Paul, what does Instant Customer do that I can't do with, you know, an email system like Aweber or MailChimp or something like that? Well, it's a cross-channel marketing platform, so I can send text. Well, can't you send text with other programs? Yes, but this one does text, this one does voicemail, this one does postcards, this one does email, all in one place. An incredibly, incredibly powerful tool. Let's close a couple of these windows here, and let's keep going through the list of tools. All right. Oh, by the way, when you follow me on Twitter, somebody had asked earlier about the instant follow-up. When you follow me on Twitter, I will automatically respond to you with a, hey, for more information, text this to this. And I have built my list that way. And I've had a blast with it. The iPhone, the iPad, tremendous tool for me in a lot of different ways. Google Reader, which I'll be getting to, and I realize by putting this in alphabetical, there's a lot of getting to promises, but Google Reader, I read Google Reader on my desktop sometimes. I read it on my iOS devices sometimes. I use a product called Reeder, R-E-E-D-E-R. There's actually a reader for iPhone, a reader for iPad, and a reader for the Mac. But what happens is everything's synced. What does that mean? That means if I read it on my iPhone, I'm not going to read it on my desktop. That means that if I read it on my iPad, I'm not going to see it on my iPhone. I got a lot of content to read. I got a lot of stuff to keep up to in this industry. And the fact of the matter is simple. I don't need to read the same stuff over and over again. This is back to where we have computers do the work for us. The computer's keeping track of this stuff for me. Reader does that on the iPhone very good. On the social media side of things, I've got Hootsuite on my iPhone. I've got Hootsuite on my iPad. It works tremendously for me, integrates with my existing account. I can do the scheduling, I can do the reading, I can do the responding, all on my devices. Right now, I have to use the Google Plus app to respond to and deal with Google Plus. Soon they will be integrated, soon we'll have something better, but at the time being, you know, it's the processes that are important. I need to be on Google Plus. I need to respond on Google Plus. And so I use the Hootsuite app and I use the Google Plus app. Paul, what about Android? What about BlackBerry? What about Microsoft? For me, it all becomes a best tool for the job thing. The tools are there, easier, faster, quicker on iPhone, iPad than the other platforms. If you can't pick up the other platforms, then just find the best tool for the job there. Hootsuite is available, I think, on Android. I'm fairly sure it's available on Android. Yes, it is. I know for a fact it is available there. And so, you know, you've got some other options, but these are what I use. Klout. The good, the bad, and what to do with Klout. Klout is a, for lack of a better term, Klout is a, how do we describe this? It's a Nielsen's rating system for the internet. It gives you a score of how influential you are. The score is, my score is 56. What does that mean? Purely an arbitrary number, purely made out of somebody's, you know, it comes from somebody's decision of an algorithm. Let's be honest. And this algorithm has decided that I'm influential about 16 topics. Now, the good about Klout is I can see how my score is done. I can see activity over Twitter and over Facebook and over Google+. I mean, this is interesting. I can tell how I'm doing here. Where my true reach is. What am I doing to expand my reach? Interesting. I mean, you can tell I've been working to expand my reach. Are these things perfect? No, but it's some tools, it's some charts to see how you're doing. It's interesting stuff. And it's just a tool. I mean, if you're going down, you're not reaching as many people. If you're going up, you're probably reaching more people. It's not perfect. It can be gamed. Let me show you something funny. So it decides that you're influential about certain things. So it has decided that I'm influential about internet marketing, small business, YouTube, social media. Now what's interesting is you can give pluses. You can say that people have influenced you. So what's interesting here is Robbie Schlosser said on March 28th that I influenced him about internet marketing. Thank you, Robbie. He said it again a week later. Thank you, Robbie. Joe said I was good at internet marketing in January. Thank you, buddy. InMotion Hosting gave me one in January. Thank you. And Taylor gave me one. Now, but what's funny here is it will get some of these ideas based on what you post about, based on what other people say about you, but you can actually nominate other people. So you can see here, it's pretty cool. YouTube, social media marketing, Amazon Kindle, Facebook Business, iPad, Amazon, smartphones, tools, Netflix, Apple, piracy, job search. Okay, that's pretty good. What's funny here is we're going to take a look at the influencer Webby 2001. Webby 2001 is one of the smartest people on the internet. He is Tom Webster. He works for Edison Research. Tom is the best of the best, a gentleman, a scholar, a friend. And Tom works for Edison Research. He's great on the internet. And he makes people, well, he's the VP of Strategy at Edison Research. He talks about consumer insights, social media, folksy analogies. He tells the stories of numbers. Cool guy. Now, what's here interesting is if you see he's influential about 20 topics. He's influential about market research. He should be. He's the VP of Strategy at Edison Research. He's influenced about social media. Should be. This is what he does. Groundhog Day? What the heck? If we see all here, I've been leading a bit of a group to do what we can to game the system for Tom. So, I vote for this guy. I give this guy plus Ks as many times as I can. CC Chapman has joined me to give him a plus for Groundhog Day, so he's now an expert there. The system's been gained to make, Tom an expert on pregnancy. Jason helped me out there. This one was funny. I just found this obscure topic, and I've given him plus Ks, so now he's an expert in electric housewares and fans. I mean, this is something automated, obviously. I mean, this is just silly. And so Klout can be gamed. So what do you do with Klout? You look at Klout, you see how you're doing, you track your social media, you see where you're making influences, you see where people have influenced you. Don't compare your score to somebody else. Only compare your score if you're going up or down. Realize there will be competitors, realize there will be other people in this game, but it's just one way to track. And it's a tool that I look at every week or so, maybe, probably every 2 weeks. Unless I'm feeling spunky and I want to game the system to make Tom, a better expert on pregnancy. But that's Klout. Reader.google.com. Very powerful. Reader.google.com. Let's head over there. So, this is part of what I was telling you about the internet and RSS and all these things. Reader.google.com lets you subscribe to things, okay? And you can click the subscribe button, and you can look up topics to subscribe to, and or you can get very, very specific. And what's interesting here is Google Reader keeps me up to date with all the topics that I'm interested in. So I'm very interested in Apple. I'm very interested in what's happening at Apple. So I can click on the Apple category here, and I can see there are a bunch of articles about Apple right now. So apps, downgrades, upgrades. I'm not worried about the app space with Apple. So I flick through that. Microsoft Office for Mac Service Pack 2 is now live. Okay, I'm kind of interested there. Photo Joe unleashes Belkin iPhone camera accessories. Okay, this is interesting. This is something I possibly want to share with my audience. This is pretty cool. I'm going to well, I'm spoiling another one of my stories. I'm going to give this a star. Now, the cool thing here is by me giving this a star, and I can give this a star on any device that I'm reading Google Reader. So I could give this a star if I happen to be reading this on my iPhone. I could give this a star if I happen to be reading this on my iPad, or I can give this a star if I happen to be reading this on the desktop. What happens now is if this then that, which I showed earlier, every 15 minutes checks for stars. If there's a star, it adds it to buffer. So by me reading my news and me starring it, I've automatically sent something to Twitter. See how cool this is? See how just amazingly powerful this is? So that's Apple. So that's Reader. So I can read about Apple, which is kind of fun. Okay, this thing really looks cool. This just looks like a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Java's updated, boring. You're the Pundit, boring. Daily update, boring. Boring. And that's the end of my Apple stuff. Now you see I've got categories. I've got ego surfing. You know, anytime I'm mentioned out there on the internet, it tracks this for me. Now, the nerd in the front row, this is me. Because it tracks me anywhere that I'm on the internet, it tracks, you know, the fact that it found me. But if somebody talks to me about that, you know, it tracks that. It tracks that for you. You can track and be updated when anybody says anything about you on the internet? Yes. And it happens with Google Reader. And the cool thing is, if we go back here, it's synced. If I read on my desktop, I don't have to read on my iPhone. Or if I read on my iPad, I don't have to read on my iPhone. It syncs. This is what's beautiful. It syncs on Android too. I have a reader actually on my Kindle Fire, which is the Android background. So I've got this constant flow of information coming in, but I only look at it once. It all comes together in one place. And if I happen to be, you know, pressed for time, I can actually just look into the folder that I'm interested in, which is, you know, incredibly, incredibly powerful stuff. It's made possible by RSS, and which again is this technology that I told you about Web 2.0 that makes this stuff so exciting. Search.twitter.com. See what's cool here. So let's look in social networking. This is a Twitter search set up to search. You know, I've got a Twitter search set up to search anytime the word Colligan is there. And what's cool here is, you know, this one came from me. I mean, if it searches Colligan, it's going to search the stuff that I had to say. Now here, somebody is making a comment to Lee Colligan. Well, obviously, I'm going to see that. These things aren't always possible. I could probably set up some logic that said, you know, not Lee_Colligan, but, you know, I'm looking at that pretty quickly. Not that big of a deal. This is, you know, an update to a message that I sent out. But these are all the times that I was mentioned, you know, inside of social media. And you can see here as I do this, the numbers go away, and then I won't see that sync to everything else. How did I get Twitter search in there? Let's see. Where is this part? I always forget where. Oh, you know, my screen is not big enough here to show you, but basically you can do manage subscriptions, and I've got an RSS feed to make this possible here. Let's see here. Wow, you saw that? That number just went up. I mean, new stuff's being added all the time. Yeah, I can't get to that on this screen. But basically, I can add an RSS feed of what's happening in Twitter search. I've got that capacity. I've got that ability, and it's pretty powerful. So with Google Reader, everything that's happening in the searches, everything that's happening out there. So I know what's happening in Twitter. I know when I'm mentioned in Twitter. I know when the name Colligan's mentioned in Twitter. I have it monitor businesses that I work with, topics that I work with, and it all comes through Reader, and I only read it once. ScreenFlow and iMovie. ScreenFlow is the screencasting program that I use to make screen recordings with. If you are watching the recording of this webinar, it was made with ScreenFlow. And if you are watching this thing live, it is being recorded with ScreenFlow. And the great thing about ScreenFlow is ScreenFlow will publish directly to YouTube. ScreenFlow will publish directly to YouTube as a published, as a listed video, as an unlisted video. iMovie will go as a listed video or as an unlisted video. So normally the flow is that people will produce a video, then we'll put it on YouTube. No. I produce it right from the product, it goes right to YouTube. Let the computers do the work. Let the computers talk to each other. Incredibly powerful stuff. Siri. Oh, this one's fun. This will be fun to do live here. So what I'm going to do, Siri comes with the iPhone. It lets you voice commands. Check this out. I shall tweet with my voice. You can't see this, but you'll hear the audio here inside of the microphone. Text Twitter.
Okay, I can send a text to Twitter for you. What would you like it to say?
It is so fun to tweet from my phone.
I updated your message. Ready to send it?
So it's asking me if I'm ready to send it, and of course now it's recording me talking about this. And but basically it says on my screen, it is still fun to tweet from my phone. And there it is. So I'm ready to send it. And she was asking for my voice response, but since I messed it up so much, I'm just going to hit the send button. I hit the send button.
Okay, I'll send your message.
So now, using Siri, which is going to go out by text, I am going to text Twitter, and then Twitter's going to get the text from my phone, and as a result, Twitter's going to be updated. So I am now tweeting from my voice. So let's take a look at twitter.com/Colligan. It is still fun to tweet from my phone. How cool is that? So I can tweet from Siri. So I'm driving around town listening to a podcast. I hit the microphone button on my screen or on my headphones, and I can tweet from my phone. Another tool that makes it possible. SocialOomph.com. SocialOomph.com is a tool, a poorly named company, but SocialOomph.com. Oops, got that wrong. Let's see, SocialOomph.com. There we go. And SocialOomph.com is a tool that basically, we'll log in here. All right. And it lets you automate a bunch of things using social, mostly Twitter. You can see this is just the free account. What's cool here is I can set up all sorts of things. And I've got the welcome DM. And the welcome DM is the welcome direct message, and that's basically when somebody follows me, it sends a automatic welcome message. And so this is the thing where when somebody follows me, thanks for the follow, text me at this number with name and email for a free 90-minute HD YouTube training video. I have an automatic message that comes when you follow me inside of Twitter. And back to that question that was asked earlier, if you follow me on Twitter, I know nothing about you. So sending a message back that tells you how to get more from me is not a bad thing. Some people don't like it. It's possibly even controversial, but I use SocialOomph to automate the process, and it has been good for me, and I am thrilled with it. So we just went through all these tools, and the thing that's going to go through your mind is simple. What about Tool X? Paul, I use Tool X. Paul, I like Tool X. Paul, I have heard about Tool X. What about Tool X? Great. Two questions. What does Tool X do? What do you need it to do? If it does what you need it to do, go ahead and use it. I'm thrilled with tools. I love tools. And I just don't want you to have another tool for the sake of having a tool. I know people who have, 37 different Twitter clients. Why do you need 37 different Twitter clients? You're only going to visit them 37 different times. What does it do? It helps me respond on Twitter. Well, what do you need it to do? Well, not much, because Hootsuite's already doing a good job. Well, is this better than Hootsuite? No. Then why are you using the tool? So what about Tool X? I Use whatever tool gets the job for you, whatever tool makes you money, whatever tool, does things right for you. How do you come about? How do you select these tools? Was it trial and error, word of mouth, recommendations? It's a combination of all those. I mean, the great thing is I'm in this industry, and so I track these things. A lot of times they'll come over through Google Reader, or they'll come over through something like that, and then I'll give them a try. But I do ask that question. I mean, there have been a lot of Twitter clients where people have said, hey, Paul, this Twitter client's awesome, and it does this. Okay, great. And it might even be something that Hootsuite doesn't do, but what do I need it to do? Do I need this feature? Do I need this benefit? I run all Tool X things through that lens. I'm willing to use another one. But again, if the job's done, I mean, Social Oomph, that site I showed you, is butt ugly. Just butt ugly. And there are a lot of more attractive tools that do the job, but Social Oomph works. And it does what I need it to do. And I'm not going to replace it until it either dies or somebody does it better. So those are the tools. We're almost at the end here, everybody. And it's been fun to take these Q&As as they come in, because don't know how much time we're going to have at the end here. We're going to probably have to go over just a little bit, but I want to be true to your time here. So processes. All right. Each of these processes. What is the publishing process? My publishing process for my blog is content timeline. If I want to put something on my blog, I double up. I put it on Google Plus too. Content timeline grabs it, puts it on Google Plus. If I want to put a video up my website, great. Content timeline grabs it from YouTube, puts it on the blog from me. I use Google Plus today. What are you going to use tomorrow? Don't know. Doesn't matter. Content timeline grabs the stuff. Paul, why are you publishing on both the social networks and on your blog? Well, it goes back to that RSS thing. It goes back to that Web 2.0 thing. It goes back to where we are. More people are reading me on the social media sites than are reading me at my blog. So why should I put something only at my blog that a bunch of people aren't going to read? Let's put it everywhere. Let's just not go everywhere in the process of putting it everywhere. So now when I publish text, I do it with Google Plus. When I publish video, I do it with YouTube, automatically puts it on my blog. We are good to go. If I want to time something at Facebook or time something at Twitter, I put it inside of Hootsuite. It's easy, it's simple. That's the publishing process. Now, every morning I have a simple process. I review what's gone on. I go into Google Reader and I review everything that's happened in search. I read everything that's happened in news. I read where the Colligan name has been mentioned on Twitter. And it's funny, it's not perfect. We had that Lay Colligan in the example, but the fact of the matter is, Bud Colligan is a VC who sometimes is chatted about on Twitter. Cash Colligan is the drummer or bassist, I think, for Death Cab for Cutie. He gets mentioned on Twitter. So sometimes when I read my name, Colligan is there, but sometimes I read my name and it's there and I can respond. But the great thing is I find very quickly, see if there's anything I need to respond to. And then I do it, inside of Hootsuite. So I read what's happening in the world of Google Reader. I read what's happening across all of my websites inside of Hootsuite. I can go through it very, very quickly. I'm visiting literally hundreds and hundreds of sites, and hundreds of data feeds through these two simple tools. Very powerful, very fast. I respond on Hootsuite if I have to respond on Hootsuite, and but I do it right there when I read it. And I do have to check Google Plus because that's not automated yet. But one of the things that's interesting about Google Plus here, let's go back to Reader, and at Reader here we'll see these articles. But we'll see here in Reader, we'll see a number. Look, there's one response that has happened to me inside of Google+. Well, this is part of the response process. I can click here, never even go to Google+, see what it is. Tim Street says, do you sell a lot of products when you do? So Tim mentioned on the webinar, Tim made a comment, and I like Tim. Tim is a good guy. So you know what? I'm going to respond to Tim right now. And the cool thing is here, I've never gone into Google Plus here. See how cool this is? So I respond to Tim. This product, this webinar, is actually a product. People paid to get in. or watch the recording. Sometimes I do a sales webinar where I sell, and it's great for that too. But today is fulfilling on a promise and fun to do. And I like Tim. Tim's a cool guy. Tim, you should train for pay via webinar. I'd be your first customer. So there we go. I just responded in Google Plus without using or visiting Google Plus. So that's part of my, data response thing. So usually I go to Google Reader and I will respond to Google Plus directly from there. Eventually Google Plus will have a response mechanism built into Hootsuite. They've announced that that's coming, but my morning's really fast. I review. Many times it's on the iPhone. Many times it's on the iPad, usually in front of breakfast with a pot of coffee. Yes, a pot of coffee. I'm just that type. But that's my morning response. It's pretty quick. It doesn't take that long. And then evening before I shut down for the day, get this. It's the same as the morning. Every evening I review anything that I need to review. I respond to anything that I need to respond, and we go from there. All day long during the day, if I star something that I've read, if this then that triggers it and sends it to Buffer app. If I star something inside of Google Reader does that. If I happen to be on iOS or my iPad, I can do the bookmark that automatically sends it to Buffer. And I might be just at a website like I showed you in the example, and I might send that easily, but that just happens. That's 5 seconds here, 2 seconds there, not that long. And so if you look at the doing it of the math, I really spend less than 30 minutes a day on this. I could, if I wanted to, easily spend less than 15 through this type of process. This is my business. This is my life, and because I've got control, because I've got these tools, because I've got these processes, this is my business life. Now, again, I want to stress that the goal is to bring people into the fold. So I will get people on my list, and then I'll market via email, because that's the way that seems to clear through the cutter the most. But I'll market via SMS, I'll market via voicemail drops, I'll market via whatever works, but I do it automatically, I do it strategically, and this is how I am productive. So it's 33 minutes. I'm 3 minutes late. I want to honor you guys and the time that you spent here. I'm going to answer 2 questions, and let's go. Okay, so this question here. So you spend less than 30 minutes on all of social media, and in the back of your mind, social media is used to help build your list and build your credibility, comma. Yes, question mark? Yeah, that's exactly it. That's what I do. I spend a lot less time in here than most people do, so I can build the content, so I can do the training, so I can do the real work, the stuff that makes sense. Then my last question, this is a good one. Would these tools and processes work just as well if someone is just starting out? Yes, absolutely. These tools and processes would work for anybody. And again, if somebody's starting out, you haven't done the homework, use my tools. If you consider yourself or feel yourself to be a bit more of a pro, find the tools that make sense to what it is that you do. Wow, there we go. Thank you so much. I appreciate you joining me for this. The fundamentals, again, is that it's distracting. You got to deal with that. You got to come up with processes, and you got to come up with a focus that gets out of the way of the mess. Visit as few sites as possible. Automate as much as possible. I went through a bunch of tools. I went through the tools that I use today, but the fact of the matter is with those tools, it's that very, very simple question when you're looking at tool X, of what does it do? What do you need it to do? If it meets one of those 2 needs, go ahead and join it, bring it to there. I showed you my processes. I read what's there. I respond if needed. I publish throughout the day if I'm sharing information. I schedule through things that let me schedule. I very seldom go to the websites that make that happen, and the stuff gets out there. It automatically goes to my blog. When I publish it accordingly, it's a simple place. that is social media productivity. Thank you so much for joining me. It has been a pleasure. If you are on this live, I will probably get the recording to you, in the next 24 hours or so. If you're not on this live, then you're watching the recording, and the recording has already been gotten to you. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great day. Good night.